We are all about creating a balanced money plan where you can spend for the life that you want. But there are times when you might need to crunch your budget down so that you have more cash flow. So today we're going to be talking about what a bare essentials budget is, why you need one, and how to put one together.
Hi, I'm Joseph.
And I'm Tasha with One Big Happy Life, and we help you find balance, build wealth, and live happy. Everything that you need to create the life that you want.
A bare essentials budget is a crucial financial tool that you have in addition to your regular budget for whenever things aren't going well or you're concerned that there's going to be some financial upheaval.
And to make this really actionable for you, we've created a worksheet to help guide you through the process of creating your own bare essentials budget. And you can download that at onebighappylife.com/1, the number one. So onebighappylife.com/1.
So what exactly is this? Well, I said that you kind of have two budgets going on. You've got your regular everyday budget that you just want to make sure that you're not spending too much, got your expenses and savings covered. And then you've got your go-to budget if you need to drastically reduce your expenses. And so this is your bare essentials budget, meaning the things that you can't live without.
Yeah, so basically, what happens in your normal life is that you're spending and everything's fine and you're aiming for your financial goals and you're on track with everything. But if something were to go wrong, then you're going to change your spending abruptly, right? To make sure that you have the financial resources to hit all of your financial, like your minimum expenses, all of your required expenses to keep your roof over your head, to keep yourself fed, to keep your lights on. And the thing is, you do not want to wait until you need this budget to see this budget, understand this budget, and know how to create this budget. Now, this is like the middle ground when it comes to financial disaster. Like, you want to cut back to your bare essentials if you expect that this financial disaster is not going to be your new reality for years. This is just something to kind of put your life on stasis until you're able to get your income flow and your budget surplus back to where you're used to it being. So we're going to be talking about not major shifts in your spending, like selling your house or moving to a less expensive apartment. Those are things that take time to do, but sort of what you can do when you expect your emergency will last maybe 3 to 6 months.
So your bare essentials budget is the number that you're also going to be using to build your emergency fund. So let's say that you're experiencing a job loss and you need to be dipping into that emergency fund to cover it. Well, so when you're calculating it, you're taking your bare essentials and then multiplying that out 3 months, 6 months, 9, 12, etc., until you have the big enough emergency fund to cover that kind of a thing. And like Tasha said, this is just, this shorter term fix to make that money last as long as possible while you're looking for a job or whatever the case may be. But it's important that you're doing this in advance and you keep this in the back of your mind, because as you're entering into new transactions, buying a car, renting an apartment, it's important to be thinking, well, how does that affect my bare essentials budget? Because if it's increasing it, maybe your emergency fund is no longer large enough. And so that's why it's important to be thinking about both of these numbers as you're deciding to spend more money, especially if it's over a longer period of time.
So the other thing about your bare bones, your bare essentials budget is that it's not just for huge financial upheavals. Like if, say, you lost your job, it can also be really helpful just from a financial flexibility perspective. So for example, if something happens that you weren't expecting, so, a quote unquote emergency, but it's really one of those emergencies that you could plan for. Like say, for example, you needed $2,000 in car repairs, but you only had $1,000 in your car repair sinking fund because let's say you only started it just this year or within the past year. So it hasn't gotten all the way full yet. So you need an extra $1,000. So what some people might do is hop straight to, well, I'm going to put this on a credit card. But before you do that, we would say, take a look at your bare bones budget and can you crunch things down for just this 1 month so that you can cash flow that, or put it on your credit card, get those credit card points and pay it off. Also, secondly, It's a great way to be able to take advantage of fun things that may come along, not all the time. You got to be cautious with both of these things, but for example, 2 years ago, when we saw those crazy flights to Singapore for $350
Hmm.
round trip, we hadn't even been thinking about going to Singapore or even a big family vacation that year. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Joseph, we got to hop on this. What do you think? And we're like DMing each other because we're at work. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So we just had to, but before we jumped on it, we're like, okay, can we cash flow these tickets right now? Because then we had another 9 months to then pay for the tickets. So it's just a great way to really understand your financial flexibility so that you can take advantage of that for different circumstances.
Yeah, and you can also use it as kind of a reset of how you're spending your money to help you prioritize future 1 year spending plans.
Mhm.
Like in the sense of doing a no spend challenge, which we've done, really like a month. Almost every year, we do this no spend challenge, and it helps us cut back. We go down to our bare essentials, or very very close to it, and then that lets us reset and say, well, what did we miss the most, and move on. So you can use it as a tool, not just for emergencies, and
Mhm.
it's really helpful.
Okay, so how do you create your bare expenses budget? So ideally, you would already have a 1 year spending plan. And if you have not started using a 1 year spending plan yet, of course, you can download ours for free at onebighappylife.com/budget. And we like using the 1 year spending plan even for your bare essentials budget because there is nothing like looking at your finances over a longer period of time, because how are you going to plan for anything in life if you're just looking at your next paycheck or your next month? So ideally you have your 1 year spending plan. If you don't, get one, start it now. And so you want to assess your current spending plan to make sure that you've got everything in there, right? Because you're going to want to account for everything so that you can really go line by line and think, in an emergency, what things would I cut?
Yeah, so as you're doing that, you can have your regular 1 year spending plan, and then start a new tab, save a new file,
Mhm.
and have your bare essentials where you're going line by line, looking at the things that you can reduce or cut out completely in an emergency, or in one of the more positive situations that we talked about. So this is things like your grocery budget, something that you have a lot of control over. It's not going to be major things like selling a car, selling your house, because in a short term, that's not a reliable way to save your finances, because that those are major
Mhm.
life decisions, and you wouldn't look at that kind of thing until a very long period of time is going by.
And this actually reminds me, we didn't talk about this, but a few years ago, we did two videos, one on what our budget would look like if one of us lost our job, and another was what it would look like if we became disabled. So this is really something that you should know at the back of in the back of your head. Like, if this thing that could happen does happen, what do my finances look like, right? This stuff shouldn't catch you by surprise, but you can definitely head on over to, especially the one where we're talking about losing a job. We talk about, well, this is what our budget looks like now. This is how we would crunch it down if Joseph were to lose his job. And we went through things line by line. And there are some things that you can easily change, like Joseph mentioned, groceries, your entertainment budget, lots of times your cable and your phone. Even if you're in a contract, you can cancel for not too much. Extra debt payoff, you can cut that out because you're not trying to pay off any extra debt right now. You're trying to keep a roof over your head. And then also your savings and your sinking funds. But we encourage you to leave that as a last resort, because your savings funds, you're saving, like you're investing for retirement, and your sinking funds, that money is for you. And so the more of your own money you can keep for as long as possible, the better off you will be.
Yeah, and one thing that you should also think about, I didn't think you mentioned, the federal student loans
Oh, that's a
are
big one.
are very important, because if you have them and your income drops substantially, or really any at all, you can fill out some paperwork, say, hey, my income dropped, and then get your payments adjusted, assuming that you're on an income-based repayment plan. So
Potentially all the way down to zero. And even if you're not on an income-based repayment plan, as long as you have a loan that's a federal student loan, because it's not going to be a private loan, that is eligible for an income-based repayment plan. Even if you were on the standard payment plan before, you can switch into an income-based repayment plan and then take your required loan payments down to zero. So that's one of the reasons why we have never worried about our student loan payments if we couldn't pay them because something happened to our jobs or to our health, because we know that if we became permanently disabled, those loans would be discharged, or if we lost a job, they would go down to zero temporarily while we didn't have any income. So federal student loans are some of the most flexible debt that you can have in your arsenal if need be.
And while we're talking about debts, it's important to remember that you can talk to your creditors and see what kind of options they have available. Sometimes you can get payments delayed. Sometimes they can be reducing your interest because they don't want you to default on the thing. They don't want to have to come after you for the money. So if you get ahead of it, no, we're not saying that you can definitely get at this, but it's something that you should do anytime that you're having to go to your bare essentials budget in an emergency. Definitely contact any debtor, any creditors you have and say, hey, what kind of options do you have? I'm in a tough spot.
Yeah. So you'll want to plan to meet the minimum payments on all of your debts except for your federal student loans, which we've already talked about will drop down to zero. But in the back of your mind, just put a little pin in that okay, this is part of my emergency fund. I've saved up for 6 months of my car payment. Fine. But hold on to your cash for as long as possible and reach out to your loan holders, your creditors, and let them know what's going on and see what they can do to work with you. Because the more cash you can keep on hand in case of an emergency, the better you will be able to weather that emergency.
Now that you have your first, or maybe not first, but improved bare essentials budget, how do you know if it's really going to work for you in a true emergency? Well, the best thing that you can do is give it a trial run. So remember those no spend months? Go ahead and try it out. See if it covers everything that you thought it was going to cover. And whatever you missed, incorporate that into your new bare essentials budget and make sure that it will work for you going forward, and look for those opportunities for further savings that you didn't think about before.
Also, look into which of your memberships can be paused and whether or not, if you're in any contracts, how much it costs to break those contracts, because you just want to know those numbers in advance so that you know what your options are, because then you can balance the cost of continuing to pay that thing when you might not be able to be in a financial position to keep paying it, or to go ahead and break the contract and yes, pay a little bit more upfront, but have more flexibility long term.
And anytime you're entering into new contracts, keep that in the back of your mind. How do I cancel it? What is this going to cost me if I have to cancel it next month if I lost my job? Or what's it going to look like a year from now? Anytime you're taking on new debt, those are the things that you need to think about. Think about the positive things, what happens if I pay off early, but also think about the negative things. If something bad happens, well, how does that affect me? What options will I have? And that will help you kind of preserve your bare essentials budget to be the safe place that you can go to, because you know that you've got enough emergency fund for it, or you can really reduce your expenses and go for a long time at that level.
All right, now go forth and create your bare essentials budget. You can grab your free template over at onebighappylife.com/budget. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.